Record. Welcome, everybody. We're really delighted that you're here, ready and waiting to hear all about World Book Day 2025 and the absolutely vital role that booksellers play in making sure we're achieving our purpose. My name is Cassie Chatterton. I'm Chief Executive of World Book Day, and I know lots of people here and not everyone, so it's really fab to see you all. And I also know that there are some booksellers who can't make it right now who will be watching this recording in their own time. So hello to you all too. Emma, do you want to just say hello too?
Hi everyone, I'm Emma Pritchard. I'm a business manager. Generally, I will help you if you've got any queries. We've got an inbox, which we'll talk about at the end, but any questions, please feel free. We're very approachable. There's only a few of us in the team, so we'll try and help you as quickly as we can with any of your queries.
Great. So I'm going to share some slides, take us through a presentation, but we're really hoping that what we all get from this is a conversation. So I'm very, very pleased to say that Diane and Georgia, who I'm just looking for on the screen, are both here today. Hi, Georgia. Hi, Georgia Duffy, Diane Park, are here to have a Q&A and tell us a bit about how they do World Book Day in their context too. But that's there for us all then to kind of use that as a jumping off point to talk about how you like to do World Book Day your way. So let me just share some slides. Hopefully you can all see this too. I'm just there. Right, there we go. Make it big. Make it big, because why wouldn't you want to make a screen big when you've got a massive, exciting Elmer on the screen to show off? We love this picture because we think it really helps to express the joy that children feel around World Book Day. And you guys must see that kind of face very often in your shops when children come in with their token to exchange it for a £1 book, when you bring children in to connect with authors and illustrators, and just the joy of reading. That is exactly what World Book Day is all about. Our purpose on World Book Day itself and all year round is to really champion that fun, that engagement, that enjoyment of reading. And we do it for a real purpose, because it's that fun and enjoyment that can really lead to seriously improving children's lives. There is an issue at the moment, I'm sure you all know. Although reading for pleasure is an extraordinary thing, it's the single biggest standout indicator of a child's future success. So more so than their family circumstances, parent educational background or income. It's a really standout indicator when it comes to a range of measures such as well-being and self-esteem, brain development, learning across the curriculum, not just in reading and literacy and English, but learning across a broad range of subjects. And we all know, of course, the benefits that reading for enjoyment can have to empathy, imagination, and creativity. But it very much is that motivation to read, that wanting to read, that makes the difference here. When children can read fluently, they've got a great skills base, that's fabulous, because of course it contributes to their literacy overall. And the two things really must be seen hand in hand. But what we're all about is really encouraging a child to think of reading as being something that they want to do. Because at the moment, despite those extraordinary benefits, only 1 in 3 children are saying they enjoy reading. This is data that the National Literacy Trust have been collecting since 2005. So they can tell us that we're really in a crisis at the moment. Reading for pleasure, reading for enjoyment is at its lowest level since they've been collecting that data in 2005. And then when you kind of think about the wider context as well, the fact that in the UK, in England, almost 1 million, it is in England, I think, almost 1 million children don't have a book of their own. And that index is even higher when it's children who are receiving free school meals. There is a broader sense that we really need to do something together as an industry, as a sector, as a group of people who care, to get more children enjoying reading. And also just to flag, it's looking very much like you have a generational issue in the making here. So currently we know that 50% of adults also aren't reading regularly. We can see that the steepest drop in reading enjoyment is amongst children who are aged 11 to 16. The evidence also tells us that parents and carers who enjoy reading themselves are much more likely to establish reading as part of family life. So that's where all of those lovely things happen, such as reading with your children or just having books around. Parents and carers who don't enjoy reading just aren't going to be likely to do that at home. Because children do enjoy reading more if their parents like reading. There's a kind of, there's a cultural issue at home. And it really isn't because people don't know that reading isn't a great thing. And it really isn't because parents don't care. So a study from Book Trust asking low-income families about attitudes to reading found that a really high proportion, nearly 100%, 95% of the parents know it's important, but only 20% are doing that. So what we're also trying to do is address that gap. What's going on between that 20% and that 95%, and how can we encourage many, many more parents and families to bring reading into their daily lives with their children? 2 seconds. So we've been looking into an evidence base. We work quite closely with Beano Brain, who are a research arm connected to Beano the comic. What they do is talk really effectively to children about their attitudes and their likes and dislikes and their understanding of the world. So we like working with Beano Brain because they help us to bring children's voices really firmly into what World Book Day is all about. So the evidence that we did with them last year showed, the research we did with them last year showed that children are thinking that reading is something that they have to do. It feels like a chore, feels like homework. It's not something currently that many children are choosing to do because they think it's something that's enjoyable. But we know this quote is a real quote from a real child, that what World Book Day can do is make a difference to those attitudes around reading enjoyment. We think children are much more likely to read if they enjoy it. I think you would probably all agree with that. So World Book Day sets out to make reading feel like it's sociable, like it's a fun thing to do, like it's entertaining. As part of that, we're really looking to make sure that children have got a sense of choice and empowerment around what they're reading, because choosing is so essential to a child's sense of themselves as a reader. And of course, in World Book Day's activities and through all the celebrations, we're making it fun for children to be able to express themselves, find a reading identity through reading. And critically, because fun is the thing, fun is the key that unlocks all of those benefits that reading can bring. So this year, we will be looking even further into the evidence and building on what we learnt last year and talking more to parents and families about what's going on at home to uncover the kind of the thinking, the attitudes, the emotional stuff that's going on around children's reading with parents at home. So what we will be saying, we think.
Put the volume down, and I've put the brightness down. There we go.
You could all be
on. No, I haven't flattened them, but I can flatten them if that helps.
It depends on what size they are.
I'll show you what they are.
Obviously, the stronger if they're not flattened.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought I'd bring on. So there's two.
Yeah.
Like that.
That's fine. Yeah.
And then one of them is full of paper packing material.
Okay.
If you'd like that. If not, I'll take it out and put it in the bag.
There. Thanks, Anne. Well done. I don't know what was going on, but I hope the packing material gets sorted out. So let me carry on. So the work we're doing with Beano Brain in 2025 is looking more into that home environment and what's going on in that kind of like the belief system that sits behind reading. With the research is in progress. But from what we know so far in its early stages, we think that what we'll be coming out with is a train of thought that's around reading in all forms being valid. So yes, we think comics counts. Yes, we think audiobooks count. And we do that because we know that all of that content can lead to higher engagement with the printed form too. So what we will also be saying is it's about reading, and it's not about reading versus screen. It's not about reading versus gaming. What we're saying is reading in all forms and reading alongside your other forms of entertainment is a good thing to do. It can make reading feel relevant for children and families too. We're also really conscious that parents too are finding that they're very stressed around reading, particularly when it comes to reading homework. So World Book Day's job will be to try and identify as many places as possible where parents can really take the pressure off, particularly when it comes to reading enjoyment. Let's really allow everyone to focus on the enjoyment and relax and let children experience and explore for themselves. So just to show you a little recap of a little bit of what the World Book Day campaign looked like last year. I'm so sorry. We seem to be having issue after issue this morning, but I'm glad to show you this screen, but it's actually the wrong presentation. So I'll just talk to it and then I'm going to close it and go to a different presentation. We expect there to be, again, a really broad and wide-reaching media campaign, again, for World Book Day 2025. It's impossible to say what it will look like at this point, but we know that the team at MHP Group that we work with really closely on PR and media will be looking at that Read Your Way evidence base and selling that into the media so that we can really get a strong message out there. Now, what you guys do is really important to that, and we're very much hoping to see what booksellers contribute to the World Book Day campaign feature very strongly in World Book Day's campaign this year. Give me a minute, please. While I open, there we go. The two were sitting together on my screen. Helpful. So, this, I hope you can see it, is a little snapshot of what the Read Your Way campaign looked like in terms of children's engagement last year in bookshops, in schools and libraries, in Downing Street. What we love to see were children having that wonderful experience of choosing a book for themselves and all of the excitement that can bring. And then also doing a wide range of activity, listening to authors and illustrators, doing draw-alongs, and making for themselves items that kind of represent what they really enjoy about reading. So this is the experience we want to see recreated in bookshops across the country and in lots of other places too. I'm going to just share this presentation about the World Book Day books for this year. I'm sure you've all seen them, but we're just going to have a little reminder. So there we are. Those are the books that we hope will be bringing children into your shops across the country to exchange with for their £1 token. You don't need to see it again, but I thought you might like to see this little video.
Cassie, the audio's not coming through.
Oh, thanks, Emma. Rather than go back, what I'll say is hopefully you saw some subtitles as well. Those are a snapshot of the children who helped us choose the World Book Day £1 books for 2025. We've been working with children to help with that selection now for the third year. So the books that we'll be announcing for 2026 have also been chosen with children's opinions and advocacy very much in mind. We're always really thrilled to know that when we go into a school and work with a group of children who the school knows are very reluctant readers who don't read, as part of going through that £1 book selection, they come out of those sessions advocating very strongly for the books that they want to see, and they're very enthusiastic about reading. This little compilation of photos is the World Book Day £1 book illustrators and authors for 2025, showing us how they read their way. They're all looking forward to getting involved, and we're looking forward to seeing lots of activity with them. So why do we do all of this? What impact does World Book Day have? We know that primary school children are saying that they make more time to read, they find the reading more fun, they talk about reading more, they find new books to read through World Book Day. And these are all really good indicators of why World Book Day is doing the right kind of thing to encourage children to find the enjoyment in reading. really critically, with the £1 books, so this is very much where your engagement is and why your support is so very, very, very important. 1 in 4, it's a quarter of all children who receive free school meals that we surveyed said that that £1 book is the first book they've had of their own. And really interestingly, there has been a wider gap between the children receiving free school meals and then all pupils when it comes to this measure in previous years. And now we know that, in fact, 1 in 5 of all pupils are saying that the book they buy with their token is the first book they've had of their own. So, you know, free school meals isn't the only indicator of cost of living pressures, but it's a good one. So there's something else broadly going on there as well around book ownership too that we think we're uncovering. But we've got an enormous presence and profile with children and with adults. And what we try to do with World Book Day is take all of that presence and profile and celebration and turn it into something that really makes a difference to children's reading lives and future lives. Can't do this alone and wouldn't do this alone because we love working in partnership. And partnerships are absolutely essential to the way we work. And we do very much see World Book Day's world as being an ecology, because together we're all here to encourage and support that lifelong love of reading. So as well as children and families themselves, working with media and brand, working with other literacy charities, working with libraries, schools and educators and publishers, there's a whole world around reading for pleasure that we know involves everybody's enthusiasm. Booksellers obviously are incredibly critical to that picture. We also do work more broadly in communities. So for the last few years, we've been holding events in areas of very high deprivation and low literacy to make sure that children are getting the opportunity to exchange their token for a book in libraries and to have a kind of special World Book Day festival kind of moment. Over 100,000 books have been given out through our partners as well, whether that's through Children's Books Ireland in Ireland or through the National Literacy Trust in other areas of deprivation across the UK. And then also for some years now, we've been making sure that the £1 books and a special World Book Day moment, it's that special feel that World Book Day can bring that makes such a difference into the prison system across the UK. So the books get into every single prison, and we know that they can create a very powerful moment for families in family visiting time and create a kind of ongoing conversation and connection between parents and children when they're separated. So bookseller engagement in World Book Day is really extraordinary and has been for many years, but we are absolutely thrilled to see this year that nearly 600 independent bookshops have ordered a display unit for the £1 books, which is a great, at least preliminary indicator of how many of you are getting involved. We also work with the bigger high streets chains such as Waterstones, The Works, WH Smith, and of course also the supermarkets. So sometimes even when a child is not going to go in something that they perceive as a shop that they perceive as a bookshop, they might well be able to experience receiving the £1 book or choosing the £1 book in a supermarket setting. So that token exchange is absolutely everything. And knowing that there are so many of you out there making that experience happen for children is extraordinary. It is a wonderful contribution to this charity's work. And you can see from the kind of statements that come back from booksellers, I can't name the bookseller because it came from, this is a quote that came from our survey. So we just didn't gather the data of that particular quote. This is the kind of thing that really stands out and makes a difference. So we know that when children are coming into your shop, potentially for the first time, it is a really special experience, particularly in disadvantaged area, but in any area, it's likely that there will be children who are coming in for the first time and having a wonderful experience that we hope will lead them to a lifelong love of coming in and exploring what it is that you have to offer and what the world of reading can offer. So we are clearly keen to support you, and we'd love to hear from you on ideas that you might have to help us do this bigger and better in future years. But I'm just giving you a little overview here of what's going to be happening in 2025. So all of the World Book Day authors and illustrators will be having an event at their local bookshop. So the spread across the country kind of depends on who those authors and illustrators are each year. But this year, wonderfully, there's quite a nice spread across Edinburgh, Oxford, Brighton, Yorkshire, into Wales and London. And those events are really special and I think could be really useful for the national media and PR campaign, and certainly really valuable for local media as well, social media too. We are providing some display materials for you all. This year we have got brand new window stickers that we hope you'll be able to use, really kind of showing off that you're the place to come in and exchange your £1 token for a £1 book. Paw Print have again produced some pin badges. So those countertop packs are there for you to get either through Gardeners or direct from Paw Print. And they do, if you buy a pack, there's a return to World Book Day, but there is also a return to you as a retailer too. There are some lovely new badges involved, including those that I'm showing on the screen. The Books Are My Jam and I'm a Secret Reader. I think I want Books Are My Jam. That's my favourite. The display units, the dump bin challenge. Again, we appreciate that the World Book Day dump bin is possibly not the easiest to put up, but we really do enjoy hearing from you about your experiences of putting up the dump bin. Some of you came back with some really funny videos for us. It was very hard to choose, but last year we did have a winner of the annual dump bin challenge, and we would love to see you taking part in that again. It's a bit of fun. I wish we can find fun in that display unit. Let's find it and accelerate it where we can. And then, of course, for those of you particularly who are larger stores, a staff guide. So for people on the shop floor who aren't engaging in this kind of thing at the webinar, some really kind of quick key messages to make sure that everybody's out there being a World Book Day ambassador and understands the purpose of the £1 books. I just wanted to mention that in some cases, I know lots of you do all sorts of extraordinary things with your leftover £1 books after the redemption period. Heard amazing stories about them being used in goodie bags for parties or being gifted to children that you know perhaps are going to go out of the shop empty-handed otherwise. So some of you have got lots of ideas for using those books year round, and that's lovely, and we like hearing about them. Some of you, I think it's a bit more of a challenge. And you don't like seeing them left over, and neither do we. So we've introduced a partnership this year with the Children's Book Project. So they are a completely separate charity that do absolutely wonderful work to gather books and make sure they get out to children through schools predominantly, who are least likely to have them at home. So they have got a number of different ways that you can get any leftover books to them. Go and have a look in the Bookseller Toolkit and the Bookseller Q&A for information about how to donate to the Children's Book Project. And they want to get as many books as they can, so they make it as simple as possible. So what we can see from this kind of activity is that there are many of you out there in the world who are very much what we would like to call World Book Day champions. And this year we want to do even more to shine a light on everything that you're doing as booksellers to reach children in families and communities. So we've created this year a kind of special subset of the campaign called World Book Day Champions, which is just for you. We want to use this to be able to spotlight your contribution to World Book Day as a charity. We call it our charity because it's yours too. Booksellers were at the founding of World Book Day, and we believe it's a charity that belongs to you and others who take part. So your contribution to the charity that you founded is so vital, and we want to be able to celebrate it and shine as much of a light on it as we possibly can do. So what you can see here are little images of what's in the toolkit. This is all editable, hopefully easily. There are assets, there are ways of you to just get very snappy case studies out there in the world that we will then amplify through the World Book Day campaign. And the rosette, because who doesn't love a rosette to say well done and thank you. We'd also love to see your events getting added to the map, because then we can show the world how many events are taking place and guide people to events that are taking place in their local area. So I want to bring in Georgia and Diane at this point, because I think they very much are World Book Day champions, as many of you are, and I'd like them to be able to just talk a little bit about what they do, and we'll use that as inspiration then to go into a Q&A. Let's just introduce Georgia and Diane. Give us a little wave. Georgia from Imagine Things and Diane from Wave of Nostalgia. there is a Yorkshire Massive here. I mean, that's obviously a good thing, but it wasn't necessarily a deliberate thing. But we're glad to have them both here. They both are going to give a really short kind of introduction into the way they do World Book Day their way, and then we'll pause and have a Q&A. So I'm going to stop the sharing and we'll have a wave. Georgia, would you like to go first and tell us a bit about how you do World Book Day your way?
Yeah, so I'll try and keep it short. I'm known for talking for a long time, so I've tried to shorten it. So we've always loved World Book Day as a shop, and I think it's a great opportunity to promote your shop and inspire a love of reading in children. We were a much smaller shop previously, and just got like one pack of each, put them in the dump bin to display it. And if you're a new shop, you can start small. The £5 packs, it might seem daunting to buy, all of them, and it might seem like a lot of money, and you can have all of these books, but you only need to sell 5 out of the pack of 50 to get your money back, and then it's literally cost you nothing. And you do get quite a lot of people coming in to purchase the £1 books. So they're like, oh, my kid wants that, I'm just going to get it, and haven't got the voucher, or a friendly auntie, or just someone that's like, what, these books are £1, I'm going to get a pile. So you pretty much guaranteed to sell some for sure. And there's lots of, it doesn't have to be costly. There's lots of ways to make it work for you. This year we wanted to go really big. The shop's like over 7 years old, so we've been around a little bit. And this year we're going to get books to almost 10,000 children, which is all of the children in our local area in Harrogate and district. That's 51 schools. So we have a lot of village schools near us. And we're able to do this because we've got sponsorship from a bigger company. My husband part owns a company that have kindly sponsored the purchase of the packs. So we're purchasing like 400 packs this year. We've actually budgeted for 2 books per child because we wanted to make sure there's going to be plenty of choice, and we've got like plenty left over in the shop and everything as well. And I'm going to produce bookmarks with the company's like little friendly mascot on one side to try and attract a new corporate sponsor for next year, because I think there's a lot of local businesses that would want the opportunity to be promoted to 10,000 homes in a nice, friendly, lovely, here's a free book kind of way. Obviously, it would need to be the right kind of company. And then it'll have our bookshop details on the back. And I mean, that remains to be seen, but I'm hopeful that we could attract a new corporate sponsor or sponsors for future years, and this can be a model that we can carry on with, and I can feed that back to booksellers as to whether we do that in the future. We're going to go in and run stalls in at least 5 schools. The stalls are like where we're not selling anything, but like we literally like lay all the books out. There's sometimes a compare year group. The schools organise it all differently. They'll swap their vouchers over, and they get to choose the books. And on the bookmarks as well, it'll also say like we'll honour any swaps in store if children are disappointed, because as much as we try to offer across the range, can't get it 100% right. So if the book the book they wanted wasn't available. But going into the school in person, honestly, if you haven't done it, it's incredible. Like if you have any interest as a bookseller in getting involved with schools or inspiring reading, honestly, just connect with one school. If you've got an afternoon spare, like I know that's not always possible. If you do, like show up to one school, ensure it's a school that's enthusiastic about the books, like most of them very much are. But just make sure, and it's just magical, honestly. The children can't believe they get to keep them. They ask you all sorts of questions. And it's an amazing promotional opportunity. Like we literally, we normally just take our own bookmarks. We've funded it ourselves in the past. We've gone to like 3 to 5 schools. And they're literally queuing up to get your bookmark. They're disappointed if they don't get it. So, and then the schools that we're not visiting this year, we're going to get them to collect from us, and we're putting together like a pack of instructions as to how to run their own stall, and ensure that children can have a good choice of the books. Yeah, so that's that bit. We got a list of all of the schools in our local area. If you do want to go bigger, we got that from our local library, and I did a spreadsheet to extrapolate so what it would take for one school, and then extrapolated it up. Well, if there's 300 children in one school, if there was however many children, it would then be around about this many books, this many packs. And honestly, it can have a huge impact in your community. Like some schools will do a little talk. I know that's not for everyone. I like talking. We'll do a little talk, an assembly, a question and answer session, explain a little bit about the shop, explain a little bit about World Book Day. You get all sorts of random questions from the kids. It's quite funny, actually. And then some kids send their family in to buy from us or pester the parents to come and visit the shop. And they often there's a lady at my school, when they come in, it has a big impact on them. Like, even had someone who stood at the door of the shop and they're like, "Were you that bookshop that went to that school down the road?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." And he was like, "Oh good, because my nephew had to come here." And then he came in, the kids are like instructing the relatives like to come to us, which is amazing. And if you do want to do any schools work at the shop, it's also an opportunity to tell them what you can do. You're welcome to have visits. They can get vouchers for prizes from you. You can do them discounted books or whatever. We produced a little A4 sheet just to give to schools. We're just coming to give them books. We're not asking anything of them. And then it's like, "Oh, here's stuff we can do for you, where you can buy books for us and we can build a relationship." And the library this year as well have reached out to us and said they've got some classes visiting. So even if you didn't want to engage with schools, there might be some classes visiting at your local library, and you could go along to that and give some of the free books out there, and that might be a way. And as Cassie was saying, if you have any leftover ones, they make excellent freebies. Like, people are delighted to get a free book, and for like 5p a book, like, you're not going to get much better, things to give away.
Georgia, I'm loath to stop you because you're coming out with amazing things, but just like maybe a couple more points and then we'll move on.
Yeah, it was my last point. So it was, sorry if I've run over. I just think whatever you do for World Book Day, like if it's low key or something bigger, I just think it does so much good in your community. And even if you can inspire like just one child to read and love books, like, it would be worth it. We're making the readers of the future, and that's very important.
Thank you so much, Georgia. That's lovely to hear what you do. And I would echo the joy of going into a school on World Book Day is absolutely wonderful. And hopefully what Georgia has also highlighted there is that an enormous contribution to World Book Day's work as a charity, working in partnership with us, which is amazing. But there can also be a benefit. There should also be a benefit to you as a bookseller. So that the two things can work together: the charitable purpose, the charitable benefit, and promotion for you as a bookseller. Diane, thank you so much.
What George just said, that's it.
That's it. Okay,
It's nice that we're on the same page though, isn't it?
well, of course, yeah.
I mean, there are a couple of things I could pick up from that.
Thank you.
The first thing is I see it as an investment. I don't care if I don't sell any books for the £1 books. As long as I can get those books that we've chosen into a child's hand, that's the reason I do it. This is our 3rd year. We're doing 3,000 books this year to 9 local schools. And we really make sure that when the children come into the shop, that we really take time to talk to them to make sure they choose the right book. But also the schools come to us and say which books they've chosen for each class. So they take time to do that as well, which I think is really important. And one of the things you said, Kathy, earlier on was that children are not reading, and it might be they're not enjoying reading, and adults the same as well. And it could be that they've just not got the right book. It could just be that. And sometimes it is. I think lockdown has stopped a lot of people from reading. So it needs to be something that's engaging to them. So I think it's really important to make sure when a child comes into the shop, you talk to them. If they'll talk to you, sometimes they get a bit shy, don't they? But make sure you've got the right book for them. The presentation's really good, which is what Georgia said. The dump bins are hilarious trying to put those together. Somebody asked how you do that. Well, read the instructions, I would say, first, and then do a little video of it. And it is funny seeing other shopkeepers trying to put them together, booksellers putting those together. That's really great. But it is the joy of reading. It's getting that book in that child's hand, keeping engaged with the schools. If you're doing all that, you're working with your community, and they reward you by coming back to your shop. And so this is the 3rd year. We've built it up to 3,000 books. I always keep a few books back to give a child. When a child's getting upset in a shop because the parents want to look and the kid is maybe screaming a bit, you give them a sticky, you give them a little World Book Day book, and they sit in the corner and they have a look at that and they take it with them. And that's a really nice kind of thing to do. And also sometimes you can tell that parents want to buy something and they can't. If they don't have a voucher, I don't mind. I would just give them a book. And then there's nothing else I can add to what Georgia said, because she's got so many ideas. It was just pinging out like little sparkles, like little rainbows and fireworks coming out. I think it's great. I think you need to write that down, Georgia, and share it with everybody, because it was just superb. There were so many ideas and I could see people were trying to write them all down, and I thought, there's no way you're going to be able to write that down. It's coming out too fast. It was superb. So I think you ought to write that down for us all so that we can all see what's going on there. But the last thing I want to say is the tokens, when people bring the tokens in, they think that's actually £1. They think that's worth £1. And of course it's not really, but you don't tell them that. And what do we do with them? We recycle them. But there's a big pile. George is going to have a really big pile. And I thought, wouldn't it be, I was just thinking this idea. I don't know what you think, Cassie. It would sew them all together or put them on a string, and let's put them on a really long line and see how far it goes. How impactful would that be? We could get the schools to hold them all up and go, look at all these tokens.
I would love to do that. Also, Emma is really smiling, which I think indicates that she's volunteering to come and help do that.
Oh,
yeah.
Depends how many you get.
Let's make bunting out of them.
Oh, I love that idea. Bunting out the tokens. That's really lovely.
And then it's something to visibly see, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a visible way of you demonstrating how many children you've actually like, benefited that World Book Day. That's quite impressive, isn't it? And I tell you what, that makes great PR footage as well for your local paper.
Georgie, you could have them all around the trees in the middle of Harrogate.
Dress yourself in them, like make costumes.
Oh, yes. Let's have the funny. The best idea to use the tokens afterwards. A dress would be super.
Yes. Okay. There you go, Diane. You can lead the charge on that one.
Dress. Thank you for that. And the whole thing is, like Georgia just did, it's inspirational. Make a child want that book. Get them to read it. Get them to come back and go talk to the schools. When I did a reading at the school last year, the Haworth Primary School, and I had 400 children watching me. And I read The Day My Dog Got Famous. I read 2 chapters of that, and they were silent, and it was terrifying. But the teacher did say it's good if they're quiet, but it was very terrifying. I have to say, 400 children watching you read.
That honestly, the pair of you, thank you both very much. And that's been extraordinary.
Diane, I remember, Diane, when you first came on one of these calls, when you'd first opened your bookshop, and it was really exciting. She had lots of questions, and it's amazing to see how you've developed it over the last 3 years.
It's been interesting because sometimes the schools don't want to engage. Mm-hmm. You ring them up and they don't understand why you're giving them free books. What's the catch? There isn't a catch. You know, getting the right name for the person at the school. And then we take the boxes of books in, because we can't have 300 children through the school and they can't always get out. So quite often they send us a shopping list and we take the books in. But then the children come back again with the parents. And we always, like Georgia said, put a bookmark in it. Put one of your bookmarks in each book, or a little card or whatever it is, so they know where the book's from. And also, if you've got a little stamper, I've got a stamper with my shop name on, we stamp the books as well, and then they know where they're from then.
Yeah, and they know they can come back to
exactly
bookseller who's going to explore the world.
Exactly. Yes.
Just a quick point, that we do offer a matching service. So if you want to engage with local schools and you are finding it tricky, we've got the name, or we can access the name certainly, of the World Book Day coordinators in each school.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We offer that matching service.
Tip.
Yeah, and then the other way too. So we say the same to schools. So actually, if you want to talk to a local bookseller about making sure that the children can do that token exchange, and you don't know who your local bookseller is, sometimes they're not even that local, we can make sure that matching goes on.
That's a really good idea, especially for people that have not done it before. I've got my little list going, and some of those schools actually come back to visit Haworth, and they'll bring like 12 children, and they ring me up and they say, we're bringing 12 children to come and have a little look. And the school has either saved up or they've got donations, and they come and buy books. So they wouldn't have done that before, but now they come as a special, it's a destination. They come, and usually I've got some little goodies to give them, because there's always some free pencils that are left from a promotion or something. And so they always get a little goodie bag with something in it. But the schools come and buy, and then I give them a bit of a discount as well. So it's win-win all round, really.
I think you're doing a really nice job here of just showing how that relationship can build. So
Yeah,
if there's
exactly.
the spark, then it's
Yeah.
over to you guys to build a relationship that, yes, brings children, families, schools in year round from one World Book Day to the next, or what, Christmas, whatever it turns out to be.
Yeah.
Thank you both. I'm just going to open it up now in the next few minutes to say, what questions do you have? So it might be that you want to ask Georgia something, or ask Diane something, or ask us something about how World Book Day works. There might be things that you just want to clear up, or there might be things that you want to, over to you. What questions would you like to ask? It can't
While
be.
people are doing that, can I just ask Emma, when you send a link through on the chat, I don't know how to get that link, and when you've all gone, that link's disappeared on the chat. That's
What
why
is it? Well, Diane, what exactly
I
do you want
don't
the
know
link
how
for?
to save that link that you're telling me about the YouTube thing, so that I can share that or look at it again. I don't know how to do that. That's why I asked you to email it me.
It's on
Oh,
our
I
website.
can.
Do you see what I mean? I'm not that tech savvy, but
Yeah.
when I see links come up in the chat and I want to look at those, I then, in case it suddenly you disappear and YouTube
Oh, I
turns.
see.
Do you see
Yeah,
what I mean?
if you click on it, it should just take you out to a separate screen.
But what
Let me have a
happens
look.
to you and I can't get back? So anyway, I didn't touch it. Say again, put it in your
We'll stay in the
browser.
background, you'll be okay.
Okay, thank you. If I disappear, it's your fault.
If you disappear, Dan, I'll ping it to you on email.
Okay. Right, I think I talked over somebody. I apologise. I can't see everybody on the little screen.
Any other thoughts or questions?
Oh, hang on, 3 new messages.
Carol's asked, can we get the initial slides emailed? We can, and also on our website, there is a section just for booksellers, and you can find our booksellers toolkit, which is
I've also popped that in the chat.
same information in a different format.
And Sean's just asked about putting the book tokens through the till. I do that because I want to make sure. There's a couple of reasons. One is I want to see how many books I've got left. So I always put them into the till. Sometimes they're sold, like Georgia says, for £1, so they have to be in the till. But also, if somebody's got a token and they've bought some books and what have you, or you're gifting a book, it's nice for it to be on the till receipt or the email receipt that says 0 if you've gifted a book, because it just looks nice as well if you've gifted it. Do you know what I mean?
And then
It's
there's
0.
do you want to explain what goes on with that?
Yeah, so the reason we like to get the information from the tokens is because there's a barcode on there. As Diane said, it's not worth anything, but it's a bit of paper that has that barcode information on there. And it is really useful for us because then we can get an understanding of how many tokens go through the tills for independents, for the major retailers. And also it tells us where there's several different tokens for where a child would have got that token. So it's really important information for us because it can tell us whether it came from a magazine, whether it came from the school, whether it came from our digital website. So that is the reason we asked you to scan them, and we set them up centrally with batch. So if you use batch, then it should be that when you scan them through the tills, that we then get that information. But it's also, we do the survey afterwards, and there's a section there where it says how many vouchers did you take, and that's again is a really good way of us to keep them before you make your costume out of them or your bunting or whatever. If you could just note down how many you've taken, if you don't scan them through the tills, then that information is still really valuable for us.
Yeah, and like all charities, it's really important that what we do is talk about the impact that we're making, the reach that we have, and so that's the kind of data that really helps us tell a compelling story. Claire has asked, is there a dummies guide to the processes, I'm assuming for World Book Day? I would say the Bookseller toolkit, which is on the website, is the dummies guide. It gives as much information as we can in a straightforward way. But you are also really welcome just to drop us a line and we can set up a conversation to talk things through. We've also added to a frequently asked questions as well. And if you've got a question that isn't on there, just let us know. And again, we will update that.
Cassie, sorry, just jumping in with that link that you put in the chat. I've just put that in the Booksellers network.
Oh,
so for
great.
any booksellers having
Thanks,
trouble
Emma.
accessing it or worried about not being able to find it afterwards, I've just popped it in the Booksellers network chat.
Very helpful. Thanks so much.
Thank you. There's another, sorry, I'm going to put our email address in the chat as well. So
Rebecca's asked about the McDonald's Happy Meals tokens. Yes, again, I'm looking around my desk to see if I can show you what they look like. Yes, I can't. Yes, so we have a partnership with McDonald's, with Happy Meals specifically, and McDonald's reprint the token on the side of those Happy Meal boxes. They also pay for the printing of an enormous number of books which they give away to children. They on in when they come into the restaurants. Those books are not this year's World Book Day £1 books. Instead, children are encouraged to use that token to go off and engage with you, to engage in other settings, to make sure that they can have an ongoing journey and use and get another book for free. Our partnership with McDonald's also makes a contribution to our work as a charity. And the wider promotional activity that they do, we know is very much based on the evidence that we share with them around what encourages children to read for pleasure. So again, it's another example of how they are a partner that are helping us reach a community, a wide group of children and families who otherwise we know would not be engaging proactively with reading. And they get a lovely promotional moment from it, but together what we're doing is encouraging many more families to enjoy reading. Sean has asked, so you scan the book and then scan the voucher. Yes, so scan the book. Scanning the book through Util is absolutely wonderful, because then we can get the Nielsen book scan data, and we can talk about how many £1 books are out there in the world in children's hands, which is wonderful. And then you can, of course, scan the voucher too, and that gives us the voucher data information, which again is really important in telling the story. You don't need to exchange the voucher in the same way that you would a national book token, because it doesn't have an ongoing monetary value, but using the same process gathers the right data. And you can count them automatically as well, but if you do use batch, it saves you the job.
Someone has asked, sorry, Vicky has said, for future reference, how do people get authors to come to schools to do a reading? So I'm going to open that to the floor. How do you guys do it? Other more experienced booksellers, maybe?
Making connection with your publisher reps is probably a good place to start if you do have connections with publishers. I know you might not always if you're a new shop, but the publisher reps will often highlight authors that are local to you, or occasionally they pop in, like if they're local, and they're published by one of the bigger publishers, they might just pop in and, you make a connection, get the details, contact them, or if you know of any. It's hard when you're new. You tend to get to know more people, like the more you go on. The publisher reps are invaluable in that. I don't know if you've got any other tips, Diane, on that.
Can I jump in on that one as well? Sorry. I've just put a link to the publisher's publicity circle directory in the chat, which is a little secret weapon I roll out every now and then, because I think a lot of booksellers don't know about it. So that link should take you to a list of all in-house publicists. So if you haven't got a contact at an individual publisher, you should be able to go into that directory and find a name and an email address at the very least. That's
such a good tip. It really is. It's a direct line to the publicist I used to be a book publicist, and it's your job to make sure that authors are getting out and about to booksellers and reaching their audiences. So that's a great tip.
Someone is also... Sorry, go on, Dan.
Sorry, we were just still talking about authors. Vicky's put the reply about authors. I found they asked for confirmed amount of sales. That's never really happened to me. And also, when authors come, you can't tell how many children are going to turn up to have a book signed or whatever. You can't always say that. I always say, make sure you've got lots of books when the author comes to get them to sign, because she will sell them after the event. And it's about the author being present as well, not just about how many sales there are. It really hurts me a little bit when it's all about sales. It shouldn't be about the sales, especially not with World Book Day, should it? It's about getting that book in the hands of a child. That's the whole point.
You might find with like smaller authors that you would get less of that, like a newer author or a local author. If
exactly, Georgia.
Or if it's new in their career. Whereas if someone, like Harriet Muncaster, or so, I mean, I'm not saying she would, but someone that's got a massive profile and everyone was at their shop, then might have to be more selective over like what they do, have you. it can, and
Stick
some
local.
I think
Stick local. Look after your local authors. Yeah.
I've had some publishers say like minimum quantities for author events before rather than the author.
Really.
Yeah, which can be frustrating, but
And I would echo what Diane says too, that you say if you're doing this for World Book Day and you say it's a World Book Day event, we find that authors and illustrators are extremely keen to take part in World Book Day activities, and that should be a good thing and to your advantage.
Yeah.
Elizabeth has said, if we don't have the batch system, how do we let you know how many tokens we've redeemed? After World Book Day, we will be sending you all a survey. And we want to hear your ideas, we want to hear your opinion, and it's the place where you can just pop in how many tokens you've redeemed if you haven't done it through a batch.
Sheila has said, where would this video be available? We'll be sending it around next week with a link, so a link to the video and also a link to that toolkit with the champions information that Cassie talked about, and I'll pop the Bookseller toolkit in there as well, so everything should hopefully be in one place. Look if there's any others.
just as an extra thing to Vicky, what Vicky was saying about the sort of being minimum numbers and stuff. We've had it before with publishers where they've said, look, we need to sell 40 books, however many it is, and we've said to the school, look, if we don't sell this many books through the parents, do you agree to make up the difference? And a lot of schools will do that, you know, because then they'll have them as class books and they're getting the author for free and they're potentially not having to pay anything if they can promote it to the parents. And schools that promote it well to the parents often pay nothing, and the parents, I mean, it depends on your area and things, but that can be something to look at as well. If you're really keen to get authors into schools, that can be a way to do it. I mean, it's not a way, but
Can I just say something? I know we've talked so much. Emma, I'm talking over you. And the most important thing in a bookseller's life is time, isn't it? It's time. I don't get too involved with the schools. Let them do that. You know, if the author wants to go there, you can be the conduit for it, but I don't spend a huge amount of time with that. And I've got the most amazing quote that I found this morning, and it's this, and it's on Beauty, Zadie Smith. Time is how you spend your love. How is that?
Oh,
Isn't that amazing?
I was
And
actually
I've
going to
loved this, and I've got to go.
I'm even more impressed that you're spending your time on World Book Day then. That's amazing. I just want to, I know Sheila wants to ask a question, but she can't unmute, and I can't unmute you either, Sheila. So,
oh, hang on.
so just to go to Vicky's question then quickly, does anyone know of grants that exist to cover the cost for schools to buy books if we did an event? What you could do is look at your local trusts and foundations, because that could be a nice way in. Oh, what a great
This is weird.
idea.
I thought I might be able to unmute you, but I can't. It's saying ask to unmute.
Claire said
No.
they recently shared a link to a Hannah Gold Zoom call, which is, I mean, that's fabulous. Yeah. So
The other thing I was going to say is that actually schools, even if you didn't have an author, I think coming in and talking about, like, from your passion, like just for school to have someone else different coming in, because a child doesn't necessarily know. So I mean, obviously the big authors they'll know about, but they don't necessarily know who wrote the books. And actually, if you're coming in talking passionately about why you got into book selling, why you love books, here are the, like, talking through the £1 books and what they might read if they've liked this one, I think that can be just exciting for children. So and you reading them a story, I don't think that children are that, like, whether it's you or an author. So I don't think you necessarily have to bring, it's great to bring authors in, but I think you can do, just like you're passionate about it, you can bring that passion to the school, and that's just as appealing to children.
I know Sheila's got a question.
Yeah, so I'm also a teacher. I'm hiding in my cupboard. I speak to. So I've opened an online picture bookstore, but keen to get involved with. So I work in a secondary school, and I suppose my question's been, what happens after the kids get the book? And I've been looking in the local area of what we do, and there's a few things we do, but I was just wondering if anybody had any ideas. So on our site you can donate, and then we buy books to donate outside of World Book Day. So we're taking some to a residential unit, a children's home, and I spoke to them on the phone, and it's all good getting them the books, but then we were talking about, you know, could they have a book club, or could they, and the residential worker said something that really stuck with me. She was like, it's like they need a book bug for teenagers. And I was like, yeah, I think they do. And don't underestimate that a 15-year-old loves having a story read to them.
Yeah,
because, like,
absolutely.
I've been in an English class and just watched them, like, you know, And I think my issue is that we know that they're going to homes where it's not being encouraged. We know that then in school, especially if they're reading, be 2 minutes, I'm on a meeting, sorry. I am the head of department, so I'm just telling them I'm in a meeting. So yeah, I suppose it's just like getting beyond. Sorry, she's totally like knocked what I was saying. Like,
what next?
you know, that they're not necessarily going, that, you know, they take the book home, or like, I suppose it's just about what do people do that to go beyond that, do you know, like, because we were actually talking about whether we could set up a book club at the residential unit, like, and they all get a copy of the same book, and because they'll say, I'm not joining a book club, right? We know that, but actually being read to and relaxing and being able to do that without the challenges, if they do have reading difficulties, if they do have all these things that are barriers, and they come into school, and if they're reading something, they know it's leading to an essay or an exam, or, you know, it's not just for pleasure, and then it comes with a lot of pressure and stress. And I was just wondering if anybody had ideas. I suppose it's just getting beyond the giving the book. I mean, which I know what I was talking about was slightly separate, but I suppose it's similar with the World Book Day books, because we were looking at there's a charity in our local area who make up backpacks. So when a child's going into the care system, they get a backpack, a sort of care pack, and they don't put books in it. But what some of the residential homes have said is a book could be really good in it, because especially in the first few days when they come into the home, like, they are quite isolated and they don't want to talk. But I suppose it's like, what could we do? So this is not with my teacher hat on, this is with bookseller hat on. Like, I just wondered if anybody had any ideas about actually sort of getting out and about, and what you do beyond World Book Day and them having a book to get these sort of disengaged kids and kids like in a residential home that are not probably going to pick up a book,
let's see,
you know, off the top, but would probably actually enjoy it. You know, like
there's you're absolutely, I mean, you're telling this from your own really powerful perspective of what you've seen and who you talk to. We also have got the same impression through the research we've done talking to older children, and it can really help with mental well-being in so many settings and so many different kinds of children. You might be interested, Sheila, to know that we've got a specific pack on our site for secondary schools engaging with World Book Day. And we do also, it's that sense of there being this kind of social, entertaining activity that goes on beyond the day itself that encourages that ongoing reading experience. So I'm just going to, I think bookshops are wonderful settings to do that. And over to your colleagues to see if they've got any ideas. Reading challenges are lovely, just to answer Claire's point. One of the things we know is that when children are asked to do that thing where they're kind of doing a number of books that they've read, they tend to go for that element rather than the enjoyment of the books. So we tend to steer away from that kind of activity. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but and focus instead on the what have you chosen, what have you enjoyed, rather than the amount of books covered.
We had a school local to us that set up a community library that had like adult books and children's books, and it was a school that had quite a lot of more deprived, more children in care, more children with low income families and things, parents not reading at home, and that was really successful. They managed to, I don't know, I think he got a grant to set up like part of it. We donated some books that we had like slightly damaged or spare or what have you, so that might be a small way.
I've looked into, because I've opened up one, the little free libraries that you get, so I've opened up one of them, but it's at a nature reserve, and I was thinking, God, what if all the residential units had like a little free library? How amazing would that be, that they just had books? But again, I suppose it's getting beyond the, because they could just sit and collect dust. Okay.
Because there is, in the same way places do singles nights, could you do a teenager reading hours, silent teenage reading club? Nice idea.
But I suppose what I'm thinking of, and a lot of the kids in the care system that I know, they're not in formal education anymore. Like, and we're talking about 14-year-olds that are maybe out of, so within the local authority that I work in, they would be entitled to interrupted learners if they're not able to attend a mainstream school for whatever reason. And that's 2 45-minute sessions for literacy and numeracy. So I've contacted the boss of somebody about setting up a book club for some of the kids that are there. But yeah, I suppose it's like, how it's beyond the. I think it's been read too, because a lot of them have, you know, they don't want the stress. They feel quite stressed at reading, because it's become, especially if there's learning difficulties, or they've not been encouraged to read, or their reading isn't very strong. And I suppose I'm just thinking out loud, Julie, and it was just to see if anybody had any experience of having sort of like, reading aloud, like book bug for teenagers. Like,
we would love to be able to do more of this at World Book Day, for sure. And I think it is definitely on our agenda as one of the ways that we would like to develop the charity's work over time. But I think in general, I mean, the ideas that are coming through from this network, this group of colleagues is brilliant. And we will also try and think of ways that we can facilitate that, because World Book Day for older children, and particularly older children who are in care settings or otherwise finding it hard to engage in reading, it's so important, and we would love to be able to do more work there. So whether it's libraries or bookshops, or just engaging with, lots of our packs and have activities in there that can be used in a bookshop setting year round. Hopefully we can keep the ideas going and keep this conversation going.
If you're ever looking for people to help or join or do something to help, then I would be totally up for it. I do need to go now though, because I'm being
and I think
Nice to meet you, Sheila. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sheila. That's been lovely, a really brilliant session. Great to hear you all talking to each other and sharing ideas. And I think we would really like to do this again and get a kind of community going where you can share ideas and talk to each other about how to make World Book Day work in so many different ways. I'll draw us to a close now, conscious of time, but I think we could probably go on longer. So we will return. It's been brilliant to have you all here. And again, any questions, come and let us know. We don't mind being asked anything, just please drop us a line, and we hope you all have an amazing World Book Day. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you so much, Georgia, as well, particularly.
Thanks all.
Bye all. Thank you.